Hey everybody, and welcome back to Catalyst Missions. On this episode, we're going to talk about the South America projects and just provide an update on what's going on down in South America. So Doug, because I'll probably forget, we have Bolivia, Colombia,
Peru.
and Peru.
Yep.
Peru is a new addition.
Yep.
If you've been following along for a while, you probably know some about Bolivia and Colombia. So I want to go to Peru, just because that's the newest, and I don't even know everything that's going on there. So let's jump in. What is happening in Peru, and how did that get started?
Yeah, so we've had, I don't know how long we have had a request that have come from Peru. I want to say it's at least been 3 years, and this has normally come through our national coordinator in Bolivia, just because of how close the proximity of the countries. He's been receiving requests, over and over and again for us to come to Peru. And it's either not been possible from a human resource standpoint, just having resources to add that project, or because of COVID. That's also been a delimiting factor. So we had a contact through one of our women who is our discipleship coordinator for Latin America. Her husband was working with a guy in Peru. This guy in Peru had a contact out near the jungle in a place called Tarapoto with a pastor. His name is Ever Paima. And he said, man, I think that you could have a really viable group if you'd be willing to start meeting with them. So I said, okay, now we can't go right now. I mean, we have a lot of work that's already going on in Bolivia, Colombia. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I said, I would love to meet with this group just online. We can start meeting week over week, which is kind of the way that we like to start with new projects.
I was about to say, this is a pretty common.
It's very
common.
Process. Yeah. If you
talked about this with Cuba.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Same thing. If you listen back to Cuba, it's the same way we started there, same way we started, in other places. So started doing that, and I'm telling you, ever since January of this year, this group led by Ever Paima, other pastors and leaders form this group. They meet faithfully every single week. It's kind of crazy how good the internet signal is there, because they really are close to the jungle. Again, in a place called
Southern Peru,
or
just Eastern.
I think it's more in the center, but I'd have to look. But the place is called Tarapoto.
Gotcha.
And they have good internet contact, and the ability for us to connect has been great week over week. We meet every single Tuesday night. We've walked through our entire first module of training, and the goal would be continue to work with them throughout the rest of the year, but start putting plans in place to be there in 2023 and start the work on the ground. So I just want to, give that by way of update, and also to say thank you guys for praying, because we've talked about Peru for a while now. We've asked for prayer for Peru for a while now. And it's coming to fruition by God's grace. And so please continue to pray for that work. And also just pray for wisdom as we're looking forward to 2023 for potentially being on the ground in Peru. But exciting stuff happening.
How common is it to have somebody provide a contact that are like, hey, could you guys explore this?
Oh, that's almost the way that we get started in every country.
Okay.
Again, remember back to the Cuba episode, that's how we got started. Mm-hmm. In Cuba. It was a contact of a contact. So same thing that's happened here, and we kind of like it that way because we have an association that's sort of from the beginning, and there are people that we trust who are making recommendations to us. So it gives us a little bit of confidence going into building a relationship. But typically, when we start in a new place, we're going to work with them normally in an online relationship for about a year before we'll ever step foot onto the ground. And by that point, we've been able to really vet their capacity, their character, integrity. Are we theologically aligned? Are we ecclesiologically aligned? How does that all work? And are they the types of people we want to work with?
And that's also just a better, more effective model for the resources of Catalyst.
Oh yeah,
because effectively allocating those versus just going straight in, spending money to get down there. And I mean, because there is a lot of financial logistics that are involved in getting started.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So if you rush in and it's not the right fit, then
And if we kind of went into every place where we were receiving requests for training and we just said, okay, well, we'll go. I mean, number one, we wouldn't have the resources to do it. Number two, it's not prudent and it's not wise. We want to make sure before we step foot on the ground there that we've been theologically aligned, that they understand the mission, and that they're the types of people we want to work with from a character standpoint. And again, that kind of dates back to what we talked about with West Africa and the way we started with James, and what's happened with him since because of the good foundation that was laid. And we just learned a valuable lesson that should be the way we start in every project.
Right. Yeah, and if you haven't watched or listened to the West Africa update and are interested to know what's going on there, please go back and see that episode. Again, this is going to be on all podcast streaming platforms or all the major ones. And then we're also sharing this via video on social media and YouTube as well. Just want to plug that. So outside of Peru, just next door, we have Colombia.
Yep.
I went down with you to Colombia really just before. This is crazy. This is pre-pandemic, like a month before.
It was a month before.
Like a month before the pandemic. So I went with you to Colombia, to Bogota, well, just outside of Bogota.
Yeah, Chía.
Mm-hmm. So, tell me what's going on in Colombia.
Yeah, we were supposed to actually be in Colombia this week.
Okay.
So we're shooting this, mid-June. We were supposed to be in Colombia this week. Our national coordinator came back. He just said, hey, your elections have been planned for the weekend you would be here, which would be this upcoming weekend. He said, you do not want to be here for that, so we need to postpone the training. So we're going to do that. We've got 2 sites going on. Basically, we've got, central site in Chía. Then we've got a site out in a place called Paz de Ariporo. And
which is like kind of north of there up in the mountains, right?
Well, it's in a, they call it a red zone. I mean, it's a paramilitary zone. Typically, it's somewhat dangerous, and which is why he said you don't want to be here when the elections happen.
Gotcha.
If everything's normal, it's fine to travel there, and we would be good to go. But so those are 2 sites. We've got women's discipleship also happening in Bogota in a number of different groups. But those our 2 main sites are Chía and Paz de Ariporo. Other opportunities that are popping up, but be praying for this training that's been postponed that's going to happen in August. And so, Lord willing, we won't have any trouble. We can do it in August, and then maybe a follow-up training later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, and political unrest is fairly common.
Oh, very, very.
Because
very
I mean,
common.
that even prevented us when I went with you to Colombia. I think we were supposed to go in November.
Yeah, that's right.
We were supposed to go in November, and there was a lot of unrest.
Yeah,
that was happening. That prevented us.
I think
from
we
going
were
then.
worried about them shutting the airport down, which would have been a problem.
Yes. That's one of the things to be just praying for
That's
these
right.
people,
That's right.
especially because having family now from Colombia, paramilitary is still very active.
Oh, it's super.
In different regions.
Yeah.
And so that's something to be praying for the
sure.
people who they're just them just living their daily lives are sometimes in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And then if you go to the extent of doing, becoming a pastor and training, that stuff can even put more of a target
on
your back.
For sure. Yeah, and time would fail us to talk about different stories of different Colombian relationships we have here that have family there and the types of things they've suffered and why they've come here. So it's a difficult context in many ways. Please be praying for that work. Yeah.
One thing I did want to, I thought was really good in the Cuba discussion was, real quick, what is kind of religious landscape in Colombia for somebody who's doesn't know anything about the country?
Yeah, I mean, typical Latin American context would have high Roman Catholicism that's been embedded there for some time, but there is a large Protestant influence as well. Protestant Christianity has been in Colombia for a number of years, and so I mean that would be the typical the religious landscape in Colombia.
Yeah. So it is different from West Africa, where they're facing Islam.
Oh, 100%.
And Islam extremism.
Yep.
And that's really putting their lives in jeopardy. The things that are putting people in jeopardy in Colombia are more politically aligned versus religiously aligned.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Typically so.
So moving south from Colombia down to Bolivia, Bolivia is one of the longer standing relationships and project sites?
Yeah, we've been in Bolivia since 2015. It was one of the first 2. Okay. So we were in Indonesia and Bolivia.
So what's going on in Bolivia right now?
Yeah, as you guys know, we've been in Bolivia since 2015. So our long-standing site there, or our long-standing work there, has led to multiple training sites. So right now there's 8 training sites in the country. that really encompass. If you looked at a map of the country, you have over here on the east side, it's floodplains and it's different departments. Over on the west side of the country, you've got more mountainous region like La Paz, Cochabamba, Sucre, those types of areas. We've got training sites on both sides of the country. The interesting part is if you know much about Bolivia, they're called the Cambas and the Collas. The Cambas are over on the east side, the Collas on the west side, and they don't tend to get along very well.
Okay.
But by God's grace, we've got training sites on both sides of the country, and so we've got Camba going into Colla territory and, sort of crossing that divide. So praise God for that. The work is going well in two different sites. We're on our second generation.
Okay.
So, which we praise God for that as well. And, the work's going well. We've got a great team in place. We've got a national coordinator, Nielsen Mendoza. We've got a regional coordinator working with him, Royder Gamez. And then his wife is our women's discipleship coordinator, and she's got a team that works with her. And so they travel around to different training sites and conduct the training. And we get requests all the time, and we may or may not be able to fulfill all of them.
Is Nielsen going all over in Bolivia at this point?
He is. We tried to give him some breaks because Roy there's got a guy that he's raised up that helps him with some of the trainings that Nielsen doesn't go to.
Okay.
Yep.
And Nielsen, is he in La Paz or is he in?
He is actually now in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
Yeah, did live in La Paz, now in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
And actually, that's part. The reason for that is that the doctor told him he got COVID so bad he nearly died.
Oh, wow.
And the doctor said, you can't live in La Paz anymore because of the altitude. So that's why he had to move to Santa Cruz.
Wow. What about, I know there in La Paz there was a big ministry. Is there still a project within the prison that was there in La Paz?
Yeah, the church is still functioning within the jail. Some of those who have been trained have come out of the jail, and there's actually our project now in La Paz is sort of focused on one of the guys who has received training is out among a Quechua speaking group, and so we've started a training site among them in a place called Moyo. So there were two generations of students within the jail. A lot of them have left, and they're serving in ministry in different capacities. So we're helping one of them as starting a training site among that Quechua speaking group.
Wow.
There's also Aymara that's there. Whether or not we'll be able to work among them, I'm not sure, but there's one training site there.
Okay. Awesome. So we've got 3 countries. Haven't touched down yet. In Peru.
Yep.
That's coming in 2023.
Hopefully so.
Hopefully in
Lord willing.
2023.
Yep.
So three project sites, Bolivia, with a lot of different training areas. It's been one of the longest lasting relationships in countries for Catalyst. You said one of the first 2.
One of the first 2. Yep.
South America is just tremendous work going on there. A lot of work. Or that's your place where you spend most of your time because you're fluent with Spanish.
Yeah, I'd spend either there or in our Central American sites.
America,
just in Latin America.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So be praying in Peru that we can go on the ground.
Yep.
There's a lot to celebrate in terms of there being a faithful group who is aligned with theology and just the way Catalyst goes about doing training.
Yep.
So praise God for that. Continue to pray for the project site in Colombia as that continues to go on in Chia and Paz de Ariporo. Did I say that right?
That's right.
I think
You got it.
right.
Good for you, man.
As that continues, just be praying for that work because I know that those people definitely need our support in prayer and standing with them as more training goes on. I remember just being on the ground with them and just seeing their faithfulness and their heart. It's always impactful. You feel it, and just meeting the pastors there, you feel how much they want to see this furthered and how they want healthy churches amongst their community.
Yep.
And it is really impactful to be able to see that. So that is Latin America, South America, not Central America. We did Central last time. But yeah, where are you going next? Are you going anywhere in South Central America here soon?
Yeah. So because I couldn't be in Colombia now, I'm going to go to Cuba in August.
Okay.
The following week is going to be the training in Colombia. which I will not be at, but it will still go on. So my next trip is down to Cuba
Back to
again.
Cuba.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we will bring an update on that when it happens. But our next episodes, we're going to be talking about not so much about project updates, but just how you can be involved from a prayer aspect, be a prayer warrior with the team, and just getting involved in the day-to-day and month-to-month of Catalyst Missions. So we will see you all on the next episode.
Amen.